stolen and wasted on frivolous bullshit.
My phone keeps
The proposals that Drew Barnes has come up with want to limit the federal influence on our provincial matters, on things like healthcare and our resource development, on immigration and open provincial trade.
Boo.
Why do we have people in this building who think that they know how to run our provinces better than we do?
Boo.
We don't have a constitution. We have an illusion of a constitution. We don't have anything provincially that defines our values and our rights and our freedoms and the standards for accountability and transparency. Along with equality, I hear a lot of talk about accountability and transparency. Our little potato ran on it.
Oh my God.
How much accountability and transparency have we seen?
None. Zero.
We need some serious reformation in this country. We need to be able to have plebiscites and referendums on important issues that affect us. If we live in a democracy where our voices are supposed to count for something, we need to make them count for something.
Yeah.
I respect my MP, and he's a good man, and he cares about the city of Brooks and the county of Newell. But when I email him, I get a canned response. And I don't blame him. In a way I do, in a way I don't. He's doing his job and he's doing what he's told to do.
Okay.
Now,
this is a gentleman by the name of Greg Scott from Alberta speaking, guys.
wouldn't it be nice if we actually had the power to fire these people who are lying to us?
Yes, fire them! Fire
Wouldn't
them!
it be great if there was a way that when they screw up so bad, that we can just boot them out and then have already somebody else lined up ready to step in and take their place, to do their jobs properly. We as citizens need that ability to make those choices and make these changes. Our opinions can actually count for something.
Thank you.
And we don't have to rely on the controlled media and our elected representatives in this building in order to run our lives.
That's right.
Senate reform is another proposal that Drew Barnes spoke about, having proper proportional representation.
Yeah.
And incorporate that democratic reformation into the Senate reform. Free trade is another one, interprovincial trade barriers. It's a lot harder for some of our provinces to trade with one another than it is for us to trade with foreign countries.
Wow.
What kind of sense does that make?
None. Crazy.
We can't get our natural resources moved around this country to where they need to be, and instead, what do? We buy our resources from foreign countries who have horrible human rights records, horrible environmental practices, some of them that would make you shudder in horror.
Wow.
This ties into our resource development. We need to decentralize our resource development. We need to have our provinces able to develop our natural resources the way that it's going to benefit all Canadians and everybody within each province. Industry boards that are run by bureaucrats do nothing. Industry boards that are run by professionals who work within the industry actually know how to get things done. Now, I wasn't always in the oil patch in Alberta, but 7 years ago I started for a company. And it wasn't until I started there that I understood the level of care and protection that goes into our resource development in Western Canada and in other places. Yes. I've been to camps where 5 years later you come back, it's not there. You wouldn't even know it was there to begin with. It's just a nice, beautiful patch of forest, because guess what? Nature laughs last. But our oil industry in Canada isn't just for gasoline and diesel and jet fuel. Every product, this podium that I'm standing in front of, the microphone that I'm holding in my hand, the smartphone in your pocket, and the flags around our city, provided that they're not made in China. Everything we touch, everything on a daily basis is dependent on oil. Getting rid of our oil industry in Alberta and in Western Canada will solve nothing, and in fact it will create a world of more problems, because guess what? We cannot run this entire country on wind power and solar power. That is asinine. And what is going to happen when everyone starts driving an electric car? How are we going to, like, if you try and wrap your mind around that for 2 seconds, you will see how absolutely absurd it is. I've worked on pipelines. I've cleaned up oil spills. I've seen the care and the duty of my fellow oil field workers that goes into it. You guys would have no idea how strict the regulations are that we have to follow. How many tickets and orientations that we have to have for safety. The meetings that we have every day for upwards of an hour and a half sometimes in different places to make sure that we know exactly what we're doing and that everyone is safe. And guess what? People still get hurt. It's a dangerous job. I've seen it. I've been there. I've been out in minus 50 weather before many times. I've been up in plus 40 weather many times.
Wow.
Fracking and inspecting and doing all kinds of different things that the companies that I've worked for do. And all of it goes so that we can heat our homes and enjoy the level of comfort that we have in this amazing country. I was on a frack once. The field next to where we were fracking, the poor farmer's baler caught on fire. So what did we do? Well, our fire unit drove around and put the fire out. Saved the man, I don't know how much money. It was an amazing thing to see. All the farmers coming around for miles and miles and miles because they saw the smoke, and how relieved they were that we were there to help save the man's equipment and his fields and his livelihood. It was something else. We have to make life and death decisions some days when we're doing these jobs. And I really take it personally when you have little leftist pipsqueaks who think they know what they're talking about when it comes to developing our resources, and they just want to shut it down. They are so ungrateful, it makes me sick. So it's time we start being honest with each other. But it's also time that we're honest with ourselves.
Freedom Rally
when I was a boy, a good family friend of ours told me something that I've thought about many times over the last 25 plus years. He said to me, Greg, what are the fundamental values that you have and that you fight for? And at the time, it didn't really resonate with me. I didn't quite understand what he was talking about. But as I get older, that question that I keep asking myself gains more and more importance. So we have a decision to make here as Canadians. We have to make a choice right now, this very minute, to stand up and fight for what we believe in. And not only do that, but to get involved. We have limited time.
Yeah.
We have limited resources. And there is a freight train coming down the tracks at us.
Boo.
So do we stand for hate?
No.
Lies?
No.
Servitude?
No.
Disgrace?
No.
Division?
No.
Or do we actually stand for equality?
Yeah.
And love?
Yes.
And truth?
Yes.
And freedom?
Yes.
And honor?
Yes.
And unity?
Yes.
It's that simple, everyone. It's that simple. You make the choice right now.
Yeah, you need to know what you stand for. You need to know what you stand for.
Do we stand for these things unconditionally, regardless of our race, our gender, our religion, and the political party we support?
Yes, yes.
Because if we don't, then what the hell are we doing here? Every thought, every word, every action must represent those values that we stand up for.
Yeah.
We cannot fight with hate. We cannot fight hate with hate or violence with violence. And I've seen so much of that in the last however long. It has been unreal
Yeah.
what I have seen. But if every single one of us can make that choice, we can stand together in unity and we can take care of these things. So there are many solutions to our problems. I'm not identifying solutions here, I'm identifying our common problems. And we have several different solutions that we can employ. But before we can talk about solutions, we have to be willing to do three things. And I want you to all think about this. And I want you, more importantly, when you go back home to your cities and provinces, I want you to talk about these things with your family and your friends and your coworkers and your neighbors and your strangers in your communities who you don't know. Number one, we need to stop trusting the mainstream media and our government.
100%. Woo!
Because they
Are
lie
lying. Yeah.
and lie and lie.
Yeah.
Number two, we need to start listening to each other and thinking for ourselves.
Yes.
Number three, we need to focus on the root of our problems and not on the problems that affect us all individually, like race, gender, religion, and politics.
The root of our problem.
The face of which is the UN Sustainable Development Agenda.
Yeah. Boo.
Now, there are mostly good things in the United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda. I don't want to say that they're all bad, because we should take care of our environment. We should take care of our poorer citizens that need our help. There are so many things in that agenda that we must do. But the shiny, friendly mask on that beast of the United Nations is something that we need to recognize. And we also need to recognize that we can accomplish these things on our own.
Yes.
As a country,
Yes.
as provinces, and as communities.
Yeah, we don't need the UN. Yep.
If we can unite behind our core values of love, truth, equality, and freedom, and work to solve our common disputes, and put aside all of our differences, we will solve our problems, and the smaller problems will solve themselves. We need to come together and unite as a country in this effort. Thank you very much. God bless Canada. God bless all of you.
Woo! Greg.
Give it up for Greg Scott, ladies and gentlemen.
Scott. Woo!
Covered a lot of ground there.
Woo! Wonderful.
And, sometimes it can be hard, guys. It can feel like everything is against us, like everyone is against us. I hear you, man. I hear you. But when it comes down to it, as an individual, as a Canadian individual, you have so much power.
Do you know the name of this gentleman?
And it can be
speaking?
scary to use your voice.
No. Okay.
But look around you. We don't see the mainstream media anywhere. But what do you see?
Independent.
You see independent
Journalism.
creators.
Yes.
Let's give it up for the independent creators
Woo!
out here.
Laura Lee, Press for Truth. Yes.
There's
yes.
so many to list. And yeah, I mean, I could list them all day. Personally, I kind of discovered different stories, different narratives that was actually going on online. And I connected with different people online. And we were speaking up and using our voices. Just a quick anecdote. A guy named Derek Rance. I don't know if you've heard of him, but shout out to Derek Rance. And yeah, I don't know. He kind of gave me a leg up on YouTube, and it was a very touching thing, because he's just a regular Canadian guy. Just like Fraser was saying, he should be in a canoe somewhere fishing. okay? But we saw what was going on in our country, and we decided to do something about it.
Yes.
Out of all these independent creators, or people who are thinking about it, you can do it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as hitting record,
Yeah.
starting a channel, and being consistent. But our next speaker is someone who has done this to great success. Over 200 and some thousand subscribers on YouTube. I don't know the specifics if it's like an official business or what, but independent media works. It can work.
Who's
You
that?
can make it work.
Dan Dix?
But without further ado, let me introduce Dan Dix.
Woo! Dan! Woo!
All right, thank you so much, everybody.
Woo!
This is really awesome to be in our
Yes.
nation's capital here with so many amazing, like-minded people.
Dan Dix.
I've really been meeting a lot of great
From
people today, and
Press
it's been
for
awesome.
Truth.
I wish, to be honest,
It's
that we
awesome.
were here in
God
full
bless him.
celebration
Yeah. So grateful.
today,
Yeah.
but really, as you know, 2020 hasn't exactly given us a whole heck of a lot to celebrate about. And our Canadian government is not giving us a whole heck of a lot to celebrate about. And that is largely due to the fact that, I don't know if you guys are aware,
Dan Dix
that
from
our Canadian
Press for
political
Truth
system was actually
speaking.
infiltrated
Oh yeah.
by an SJW. He's also a trans rights activist, and he happens to be a feminist as well, but he worked his way all the way up to the top to become Prime Minister of this country.
Wow.
His dad might have had something to do with it, I don't know, but he's an SJW who got in there,
Wow.
and he underwent a cultural Marxist revolution throughout the education system that has affected his ideology, and it's now starting to permeate throughout society in ways we probably couldn't have even imagined. I mean, how many people here today, on Canada Day, a day when we would sing the national anthem, how many of you wanted the government to change the lyrics from an all of us command, an our sons command, to an all of us command? Did any of you guys want that? This government is constantly doing what the Canadian people don't want. Look at when COVID-19 came around and we have this tyrannical government running the show. COVID-19 didn't shut down the economy. The pandemic did not destroy small and medium-sized businesses, guys. The Canadian government is the one who's responsible for going against our civil liberties.
Yes, absolutely.
And, you know, Canadians are fed up with it.
Yeah.
And in the midst of all this happening, we have this uprising against the police on a global scale. And I understand that. I really do. I made a documentary film about the Canadian police state. Some of you may have heard of it. Into the Fire, have you heard of that one?
Yeah.
It documents the Canadian police state in great lengths. And now we're starting to see it show up on our doorstep. So when I did that in 2010, and I saw a complete obliteration of our civil liberties and freedoms,
Wow.
I never would have imagined that just 10 years later, it would be happening, but even worse now. And it's to the point now where, I don't know if you saw it just a few weeks ago, I was at a Black Lives Matter rally covering the protests, and I was surrounded by a group of a couple hundred Antifa, and they assaulted me, and the police arrested me after that.
Yeah, we saw that. Shame!
Is that the kind of Canada you guys want?
No! Shame!
So, I guess the question is, what do we do? I mean, society has undergone, as I say, a cultural Marxist revolution through multiple generations through the education system. So I think what we're going to need to do is educate our friends and our family about the importance of embracing individual freedoms and individual liberties over this collectivist mindset. And we're going to have to do it at great lengths through multiple generations. And in fact, we need more people on our side at this point.
Yes.
So I would say,
yes.
go make some babies, everybody. We need more like-minded people like us to be able to combat this current issue. So if we want to move towards a more freedom-loving world, that's what we need to do. So educate your friends and family about the importance of denying this collectivism mindset, this cultural Marxist revolution that is taking place in Canada. We gotta talk about the importance of individual freedoms and liberties and embracing that if we ever want to have any hope of moving forward with Canada in any kind of a good direction moving forward. So that's the message I wanted to bring to you guys today. Embrace true freedom and individual liberties and reject this BS collectivist mindset. Thanks so much.
Yes. Woo!
up for Dan Dix!
Woo! Yes! Dan, we love you!
You know, it's no secret. We have two options. That's what they say. You either vote for the Liberals or you vote for the Conservatives. One or the other. Sounds like a pretty broken system to me. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Horrible.
But guess what? There are other options out there, and there are other people out there. And I mean, despite what a lot of politicians will say, we care about the economy. I mean, does it look like it? You think it looks like it, guys? No, not at all. And although at this podium today on Canada Day, we've selected speakers to be as nonpartisan as possible, but in the crowd we happen to have an individual from an alternative party who is doing his best to make change happen. And that is the leader of the Libertarian Party of Canada,
Woo!
Tim Moen.
Woo!
Give it up for Tim Moen, ladies and gentlemen.
The Libertarians!
Oh,
Yes!
man. Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Mark, for inviting me to this. It shows your commitment to free speech that you'll let me speak here today. So I really appreciate that. And is it just me or is it really hot here?
Really
you know,
hot.
my day job is I'm a firefighter, and I kind of feel like I'm in my turnout gear in a burning building right now. So I gotta keep fighting this fire. And normally I fight the mindlessly destructive force called fire and chaos, my day job, but today I'm here to fight this mindlessly destructive force, government. And so I welcome, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Now, I was a little worried that the term libertarian might turn some of you off. We always get confused with the liberals, and the way I describe it to people is liberty is the root word in the name libertarian, and lie is the root word in the name liberal. We're the exact opposite. Okay, so don't get the two twisted, don't get us confused.
No, Libertarians are for real.
I'm here in part because Mark invited me, but I'm also here because a sleeping giant is waking up right now. Am I right?
Yeah!
That warms the cockles of my heart.
Yes!
You guys might know me as the guy in 2015 when I ran for Prime Minister who popularized the phrase, "I want gay married couples to protect their marijuana plants with guns." I'm upgrading that to AR-15s now, by the way. And by the way, Dan Dix, I give all the gratitude to him. He was the first, there he is.
Yeah.
He was the first guy to interview me. Mainstream media wouldn't touch me. Dan Dix, Press for Truth, has been on the front lines forever, and I'm very grateful to him for that and for giving me that opportunity. That led to the Rebel News picking me up, and that led to other things. And the mainstream media have been picking me up and spreading fake news about me, which I also appreciated. So that's why I'm here. I'm here because you guys have been deemed non-essential. You've had your livelihoods destroyed. You can't pay your bills or keep your lights on. And that's true of many Canadians right now. The government's taken away your ability to put nutritious food on your family's table. They made it nearly impossible to save up for your old age. They basically prohibited you from accessing all the things that lead to a long, healthy, happy life. So how's that for public health? Sucks, doesn't it? Now, while this is all going on, the central banks are robbing your buying power by printing up limitless money to bail out banks and giant politically connected corporations. These are the same corporations that are getting all your customers now that your small and medium-sized business has been obliterated. These are the same banks that are getting the deed to your house and land when you can't pay the mortgage because your ability to make a living has been obliterated. What we are witnessing right now, ladies and gentlemen, here today is an unprecedented wealth transfer from you, the working classes, to the elites, to the oligarchs, to the SNC Lavalins of the world, to all those who are connected to political power. Now, at the same time, we're seeing an unprecedented wealth transfer from us to them. We're seeing an unprecedented power transfer from the people to the government. Now, and if you think they're just going to hand us back our freedoms, you've got another thing coming. The income tax was implemented as a temporary tax to pay for World War I. We all now accept it as part of the new normal, right? Who's talking about ending the income tax other than us crazy libertarians? As Thomas Sowell once said, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. And the irony here, folks, is that this is all done to protect your life and save your life. Do you guys feel protected? Yeah, I didn't think so. Oh, by the way, they're sending you the bill for all this. That's right, they've broken your legs, and now they're giving you these feeble crutches in the form of CERB checks. And they're expecting a big thank you in return.
The leader of the Canadian
Who do you think's going to pay for this?
Libertarian Party speaking.
I'm working class Canadian. That's who. Everyone here who pays taxes, and not just the people that pay taxes. That's the immediate, obvious thing. Every Canadian is going to pay this through the invisible tax called inflation. 2 years from now, when you're paying twice as much for groceries, but you're making the same income, that's going to be you paying for what's happening right now. They're robbing our buying power. That is as much a robbing of your wealth as a tax is.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, consider yourself indentured servants. Your children and your grandchildren will not be inheriting your wealth. That's going to perpetual servitude to your masters. Now, I haven't heard a single peep about this from the official opposition.
Never.
Has anyone opposed from the CPC opposed this lockdown at all? Now the truth is, actually, we've been indentured servants for a long time. Canada, at all levels of government, is currently on the hook for $4.1 trillion in unfunded liabilities. That's $250,000 that you got to pay for each taxpayer. I don't remember consenting to this. That number's going up, by the way, likely to closer to $5 trillion thanks to this lockdown.
Wow.
I don't ever remember consenting to this. I mean, I can't rack up a bunch of debt and then make you guys pay for it.
Nope.
In fact, I'd get, if any one of us behaved like the government's behaving, we'd rightfully be locked in jail right now. If you try central banking, you'll be locked away for counterfeiting money.
Oh, yeah.
If you try taxing someone, you'll get locked away for armed robbery, and rightfully so. If you issue a fine to someone for their speech, you'll also be charged with armed robbery. If you try to ban guns, you'll be charged with uttering threats and be locked away. If in the process of confiscating guns, you have to shoot a resistant gun owner, you'll be charged with murder. We would rightfully be charged with criminals, yet the government can do this and get away with it and never be charged. In fact, a lot of people actually thank them for engaging in this criminality and applaud it. Now, as a libertarian, I believe the proper role of government is to protect the individual from trespass, theft, assault, rape, and murder, from aggression.
Somebody said to blow
In
some
theory,
fireworks.
we delegate this right to the government, yet whenever we defend ourselves from criminals, we're charged by our very own government. Ian Thomas, Frank Meseros, Edward Maurice in Alberta. These are just three individuals in a long list of people whose lives have been ruined by persecution from our legal system for the crime of defending their property with a gun. And now we have Trudeau and his posse arbitrarily banning guns that look a certain way and make them feel icky. He's doing this from his castle while he has Parliament here shut down. Boy, oh boy, he wasn't kidding when he said he admired China's basic dictatorship, did he? Ladies and gentlemen, I propose to you that the battle lines are not left versus right. Both the right and the left have betrayed us and stripped us of our liberties, our sovereignty, our wealth. I would even put to you that the battle isn't really between globalism and nationalism. There are some nationalists who want to put a jackboot on our neck just like the globalists do. I don't think none of the nationalists here do, but there are some out there. The real political battle I would put to you, ladies and gentlemen, is between authoritarians and libertarians. The authoritarians want the government to impose their agenda on you. The libertarians just want to be left the hell alone. Now, there are enemies of liberty on both the right and the left, and there are also good people as well. Are they libertarian or are they authoritarian? That's how you know the line between good and bad. All right? And that, my friends, is where the real battle is. That's why you're all here today. You're not here for a government handout. You're not here to demand the government do something. You're here to demand that the government leave us the hell alone.
Leave us the hell alone.
All right. So I want to leave you with this. How do we do that? How do we get the government to leave us alone? First, we have to identify the problem. Now, this might not be a popular thing to say, but I would argue that the root of the problem is not Justin Trudeau. Now, in reality, he's just a perpetual frat boy living his best life.
Yeah,
I can't even be mad at the kid. Congrats on all your success. I mean, he didn't seize power in a military coup, did he? Here's the uncomfortable fact, ladies and gentlemen. He was chosen by our country.